You and I with Rashmi Shetty is a human library audio podcast bringing in stories of people you and I can draw inspiration from. Welcome to the third season of this amazing story listening journey. Ordinary folks, extraordinary lives, their uniqueness and individuality, making them interesting to talk to and to listen to, each one of them completely connected to the voice in me and with motivational stories of moving beyond themselves to make a difference in the world. A reaffirmation of the fact: open your eyes wider. The world is far more beautiful when we acknowledge the presence of both you and I. Our guest today is Dr. Shivananda R Koteshwar, Vice President with Synopsys India. Shivoo, as he's popularly called, is a versatile technology leader with over 27 years of a career-long record of challenging tapeouts, design team setup, and strategic operation management. He has a doctorate in education management and is an alumnus of IIM Bangalore and has a postgraduate diploma in innovation and design thinking, a collaborative program by MIT Sloan, and multiple other degrees from global universities. He is the trustee in Bellecourt and Orinco Academy. Shivoo is a professor in practice at Cambridge Institute of Technology and an adjunct professor at the Dayanand Sagar University and ISBR. Shivoo was the founding director at the Amatra Academy School, a professor at PES University, and an advisory board member at MS Ramaya University. An author of multiple books, Shivoo is also the recipient of the Employee Excellence Award in recognition of efforts as an outstanding Synopsys employee and was awarded the Distinguished Alumni of Malnad College of Engineering in 2018. Listen in as Shivoo shares his journey balancing multiple roles and the magical work with education that he and his team are doing at the Bellecourt Trust. Hi, Shivoo. Such a pleasure having you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty. I've heard a lot about what you do and what exactly Bellecourt does, because I can see the lovely name behind you. But before we get there, I would love to know what little Shivanand was all about, his influences, his growing years, to the Shivoo that the world knows around you. So can you take us through your journey?
Namaskara, first of all. I didn't know much about what you do. I did go through some of the earlier podcasts you have, and I think wonderful people you've been interviewing. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Do more of this. It'll really help people. And I'm sure a lot of people get inspired by the different types of work people are doing, who you're talking to. I was always known as Shivoo. Shivanand was a full name I had, which I don't think anybody uses it. Some people might not even know who is Shivanand, because in my office also, everybody calls me Shivoo. My email ID is forever has been shivoo@thecompany.com. So everybody knows me as Shivoo, actually. And what was interesting was why it became my corporate name was because when I was in US, I was working for Intel. And of course, the concept of last name for me came only when I had to apply for the passport. There was no way, of course, my name was Shivanand KR, but we never expanded those initials until I had to apply for the passport. So in Intel, I was called as Shivananda Koteshwar, and it was a long name for Americans. And I had a Chinese manager, so it was very difficult for her to pronounce my name. And she told, "Do you have any other name which I can use?" And I told Shivoo, and she was so happy. And she actually made my first name as She and last name as Woo. So it was very easy for her, and she always used to call me Shivoo. And that's how the Shivanand Shivoo transformations kept happening.
And how were you as a kid? Bright in school, extracurricular completely, or a very quiet kid? What was your childhood like? And where was
As far as I can remember, every year my what do you call the PTA meetings at the end of the year always used to be intelligent, has more potential, very talkative. And I think throughout, I was always in the first three, four, never wanted to be number one. I always used to be number two, number three. I was very happy with that. I don't remember, but my mom reminded me of the conversations when I was a child. in one of the local schools I was going to here, when my mom apparently asked me, why am I not targeting for number one? Why can't I? It's very easy. I'm just there, right there, but I don't want to be number one. And I had told her that a lot of my friends who are number one, parents are really looking forward for them to be number one. So why disappoint them? Let them be one. How does it make a difference for me? And I think continued. I don't think that is the thought process right now. I definitely try to excel in everything I do, whether it's my corporate job, whether it's my NGO work, whether it's every small activity we do. I think that thought has changed. I always want to be number one for a different reason. And I really want to understand the journey it takes to be number one. So that's very important for me. So that's what I've learned. So things have changed from my childhood to where I am right now. But as a child, I grew up in a joint family. We had like 15 people in my house, right? My parents, dad side, mom side. We didn't have a concept of my room, my table, my chair, my plates. We are from a hotel business. My dad had hotels. He used to leave at 6:30 in the morning, come back at 12:30, have lunch, sleep, leave at 4:30, and he used to come back at 10, 9:30, 10. Right? So weekdays, never have seen him. Very rarely I would see him. Weekends, of course, it was a busy day for the hotel, so he usually weekends are at hotel only. But I don't remember a day when I felt I was lonely or I was made to feel lonely. I always thought my dad was around me. How he did it, I don't know. Very, very humble guy, very simple guy. My grandmother, my grandfathers. I have three sisters and an elder brother and elder sister. So almost all of us grew together. So I had a fantastic support system. Friends, as I grew up, was again, group made a big difference for me. Very, very good friends. Still are with me. In fact, I'm working with my childhood friend right now, who been literally living together from our first grade. It's got an opportunity to work with him right now. So we are working together. A very happy childhood, okay, and very supportive ecosystem I had around me. I think that made a big difference in the growing up years for me. So
that's true, and I think you're what, an 80s kid?
73. So I'm 51 now.
Yeah. So I think at that time, we didn't have so much of a social pressure of wanting this or that. There was a lot of contentment in what we had, which made our childhoods really happy. But coming back to your childhood, you said that you remained in the top 3 or 4 all through school. How important was studies at home? And what was the motivation behind you remaining in the top 4 all through consistently?
So I think it's purely genetic in nature. Right? When I look at my mom, she was a 10th standard rank student in her time, right? She could have easily got into bank and she would have been, I think, retired as a bank manager or something. But I don't think she wanted to work. But I think my dad was very clear that he had such a big family. He wanted somebody at home. So they had a arrangement that she quit. She never joined work. She actually got married early and then she's been a homemaker. And I think now also when they fight, that's the only bone of contention they have, that you didn't let me work. But my dad always says, look around you, the kind of family we have done and the joint family, it would have been impossible if she was working. I don't know what's right or wrong here, but it worked out for us, right? And so it was, my mom's brother was a rank student. My mom's sisters was a rank student. My entire family on the mother's side, I think the rank students got some genes from there. So I think that made a big difference for me. So it was easier for me to learn subjects. I never had challenges academically. I loved maths. I loved science. I didn't have good teachers in some of the subjects, so I never got exposure to love that subject. Today, if I go back and think about any subject, I don't think it has anything to do with our acumen or this one. The teachers can actually put a lot of interest in any topics and any subjects. So my mom was very, very clear that academically you have to be number one. Otherwise, you can't survive. So she was very particular that academic success is everything. And she herself is a fantastic teacher. So the concepts of mathematics, our dinner conversations used to be, those typical physics questions or mathematical questions. Dad, on the other hand, was an average kid academically, but he had a good life. So for him, it was very clear that be happy, don't get stressed up, And he always used to tell me, don't worry, if you don't become an engineer or a doctor, we have hotels. You can always run the hotel. And that thought always scared me. And he actually told me very indirectly, subtly, that if you don't study, you're going to come back to the hotel. I never wanted to do business. I never wanted to go back to the hotel. I have seen the hardships he goes through. So I think indirectly, he also motivated me to make sure that I am on track. And our the thought process, the exposure we had was very, very limited. I personally felt the only way to succeed is to get into a good career, whether it's engineering, whether it's medical, no other option. I mean, I couldn't even think of anything else. I had to get into engineering and medical. My mom wanted me to be a doctor. I think I was very good in biology. I was being a rebel. So I didn't take up the biology exam very well. But if I think back, I would have been a better doctor than an engineer, is what I feel, because I have that skill to work with people. That mentality also is very, very close. I would have definitely been a better doctor than engineer I am right now. Again, some of the life choices were taken, but there was no other option. So engineering was the only option. I did my engineering, had a journey from there, and everything around me helped me grow in my career. So I think that was one of the biggest advantages I had. So that's my quick summary of my academic route as a child.
Okay. Interesting, because you said that either I would have been an engineer or a doctor. I would have been a better doctor because I'm good with people. Now, engineering, the technical part gets you the job, but as you climb up the leadership ladder, it's more your people skill that helped you.
Of course.
I'm sure all of those skills definitely helped you achieve what you have in that sphere of leadership that you have taken as part of your journey. So now, after doing engineering, you studied in Bangalore or outside Bangalore?
No, engineering, actually, I got it in Hassan, which is a
Oh,
modern college of engineering.
yeah, yeah.
And I'd never gone out of the house. I always, my school was walkable from where I was. I grew up in Jainagar. So my schools were around me, my teachers were around me, my whole ecosystem was around me. I don't remember taking a bus or even cycle. I used to walk to the schools. So when I got my engineering seat allocated, I still remember I got very good marks in my PCM in the 12th. But entrance exam, I think I took the second one or third CET exams those days. We no clue about this multiple choice questions. We didn't have books, we didn't have references. So just wrote it just for that, right? So it was not as good, but still it was good enough to get into the top 5 in Karnataka. Those days, the choices were simple. If you're a fantastic student, you get into KREC, Surathkal. Next was UVC, Bangalore. The third one was JCE, Mysore. Fourth one was NIE, Mysore. Fifth one was Malad College of India. That's it. There's no other college which you would even look at. So I got the fifth one, which is the Malad College of Engineering. The code of the college was 24, and the branch was electronics, which is 24H. So I got 24H in my, in the entrance results. The first thing I did was applied for a change because I had no thoughts of going out of Bangalore, and applied. Second, I got 24H, applied for a change. Third, I got 24H. Then I thought, okay, why not? Why not, look at Hassan? Parents were neutral. They didn't suggest whether Bangalore was better or Hassan better. They said, do whatever you think is good. I took a call to go to Hassan. And what is interesting is I'm from Koteshwar, which is near the coastal region of Karnataka, so right near Udupi. So it's Hassan used to be the restroom stop.
Yeah.
So you get on in the bus, you get down in Hassan for the restroom, and you get back in. That is the only thing I remembered about Hassan, and I'm doing engineering there. So I went there, but never looked back. One of the best decisions I made in life to study outside. And 4 years I stayed in the hostel. First year I stayed in the hostel. Second year I got into a room there, and was a wonderful journey. 4 years was fantastic in Hassan. Then I finished my engineering, came back to Bangalore, started working here. Then after a couple of years, I applied for a job in US and got a job, and then that's when I moved to US.
And what brought you back to India?
So 95, I passed out my engineering. So I got a job in 95 itself. in a very company called as Arcus Technologies. This was led by a person called as Rajat Gupta. And he and his team was from SCL, which is the Chandigarh Silicon Semiconductor Complex of India. Was one of the toughest interviews. We didn't have exposure of how the interviews are going to be. What is this aptitude test? No idea, right? We had a very technical interview there. We were asked to write a 2 hours exam. We wrote everything. I got selected. I was very surprised because I thought I didn't do well. And I should tell you the story. So I got this interview call and I got shortlisted. And in the room, I see all people are from Suratkal, from KREC, and sorry, from JCE, from toppers sitting with me. So I thought there's no way I'm going to crack this. Speaking good English, English was definitely a problem, though I had finished my engineering those days. So I was very scared to go and do a face-to-face interview. And Rajat was sitting. I don't think he remembers this also. He was a big guy. He's still a big guy. So we're sitting in front of each other, and he says, "Do you know how much you got?" I said, "I don't know." He said, "You got 31 out of 100. So I was very disappointed. And he said, "You're in the top 5." I said, "Okay, some positive." He said, "We don't really care whether you solved the answer or not. We wanted to see your approach. We wanted to see how much of your engineering do you really remember, and apply to the questions which was asked, because nothing was direct. Everything was a derived question." So it was a good interview. Then he said, we're going to extend an offer to you. How much do you want?" And my calculation was simple. I stay with my parents, so there's no expense. So the only expense I need is for myself, which is not much. So I said 3,500 per month. Then he looked at me. He said, "Did you pay money to pass your education?" I said, "No, I studied hard." He said, "First thing, always remember, know your worth. Never compromise on what you're worth. You should know how much to ask is up to you, but never ever underplay yourself." And he said, "I'm going to pay you 7,000 rupees." And it was like double what I was expecting. I was so happy. And I said, "Thank you." And the next thing he told, till I have done it to so many candidates after that. He said, "How did you come?" I told I took a two-wheeler, my dad's two-wheeler. I didn't have a vehicle at that time. So I took my dad's two-wheeler and gone to the office. It's in Lavelle Room. So I stay in Ashoka Pillar, which is like those days, hardly 10 minutes. So I said, "I've come in a bike." He said, "You're going to park the bike, take the auto and go. We'll pay for the auto. Don't worry about it. But you're going to go in the auto." I said, "No, I have a bike." He said, "Don't worry. Keep it here." Then I said, "Why?" He said, "Until now, your parents were responsible for you. From now on, I'm also responsible for you. My company is responsible for you. So usually the first job, you're very excited. And I don't want to be driving with that excitement and meet with an accident. Just in case, just go in an auto. Trust me, it'll be the best thing you do." I've never forgotten Rajat after that. He was my super boss. I never worked with him directly, but I have interacted with him in multiple forums. We have shared the same stage in multiple semiconductor talks and other things. But I always respect him for that, the first impression he created in me. And I try to emulate it when I make an offer to people. I always tell, and I think it remains in somebody's heart when you really care for people. And I think that was my experience with the first interview and the job I got in Arcus Technology. I still remember. So I joined there, worked there for a couple of years, and then I moved to US again, unplanned. US was just picking up at that time, and the market was hot. If they ask you what's your name and which college you studied, you pass the interview. As simple as that. There's no technical interview, no nothing. Everybody were looking for people to move from India to US at that time. So I got a job very easily, and went there. And I got a good offer, very good offer those days, $60,000 per year. I'm talking about 98, right? So good salary, and I'm an undergrad, just a BTech. With 3 years of experience, but good experience. I had a really good experience because learning in Arcus was really, really good. Then went there, started working. So when I had to go to the US, I don't know how to make coffee also. I am very bad. I'm not proud of it, but I don't know anything. So for me, I was in love with my wife then. So I told her, let's get married. Because I don't know, I have never lived alone. We got married. So then she came with me after 2 months, and then we started living together. And I had my first child. I'm very fond of kids, and we both are, and we wanted kids early in life. So I got married at 25, and I had my son at 27. She's 11 months younger to me. So we both are looking at our child and said, okay, there's no way we can, make this happen just being alone. And I had come to India in 99, I think. Sorry, 2000, late 2000. I'd come to India. I saw the buzz happening in India, and I felt if I have to grow, this is the place to grow. And it was a very, very bold decision. Nobody would even think of coming to India at that time. My green card was in the last stage. I had put money to buy a home in Portland. I was in Intel, and I was in a very good job, very good environment, very good manager. A kid was born there. I had a house there, so everything was set for me to continue my life in Intel and in US. But I came to India on a vacation. I really liked what I saw in India, and I thought, okay, this is the place I should be. Then I talked to my wife. I didn't ask her; she keeps complaining. I told her that let's go to India right now, and she, I think, took that call also because she was always working in Bangalore. The US life was boring for her because 3 years all she did was take care of the home, and and I was very, very busy with my work, with my education and other things. So I think she was also waiting a chance to come back. So it worked out very well for us. We just came back. It was like a 1 week decision. We just took a call, came to India, got a job in Synopsys, and after that, the 9/11 happened, and then the market fell in US, and then there was a whole big movement of Indians back to India. But by that time, I had already got a good job, very good offer from Synopsys. So that's how I started my journey in Synopsys, and that's why I came back, because I wanted to be with my family. I still am with my family. My parents are with me, and my sisters are here in Bangalore. I'm one of those person in family who's been sent to US to convince my cousins or my relatives to come back to India. So anybody who has their kids in US, you can reach out to me. I know how to convince them. I can get them back to India. So a lot of my aunts, so a lot of my relatives who've been out had a wonderful, successful career out there, and now they're back to India with family, with people they grew up with, and living in India right now, in Bangalore, that too. So my sisters, I have three sisters. Two of them are in Bangalore, and one is in Bangalore, which is in North Karnataka.
Yeah.
And my elder sister is in Bangalore. My elder brother is in Bangalore. So I think family matters for me a lot, and everybody is here. Nothing to beat that. So that's why I came back.
Life had come a full circle for you. First, the little Shivoo who had his whole family around him, at this point of time, has his family back around him. And so life was set. What shifted for you to move into starting Belleku and the journey that you've taken with Belleku?
I always, if you ask me, if I had gone and diagnosed myself, I'm a classic case of ADHD. And again, nobody knew what ADHD was back then. My son, who's studying psychology, uh, diagnosed with ADHD, and he came back to me. First day, I still remember a couple of years back. He said, I have ADHD. I said, what do you mean ADHD? You're fine. He said, he's a very, very intelligent kid. And he said, I have ADHD. I said, what do you mean? He said, don't Google and just tell me you have ADHD. And the next sentence he said was very disturbing for me. He said, it's hereditary. I said, what do you mean it's hereditary? He said, I got it from you. And this kid, Shikhar, always does his homework before he says something. So suddenly I paused. I said, okay, let me do some search. Let me look at what ADHD is and then get back to it. I think I did 4 courses on ADHD after that, one after the other. For me, learning is not Googling. I actually take a course and learn from experts. And I did that. And he was absolutely right. He was a case of ADHD. I am a 100% case of ADHD. But because I didn't know how to handle it, and I think it was one of those things where I was very lucky that I did self treatments, right? I'm not good in organization as a child. But I realized that is my weakness. So today, if you see my computer, if you see my emails, if you see my phone, you will say, how the hell are you so organized? I can learn by writing. So every time I'm talking to people, including you right now, I have a book in front of me. I have to write to remember things. I don't remember names. So my admins, my executive assistant always knows. So she'll be walking next to me, and when I meet someone, she'll immediately tell the name and background in like 2 seconds. And I get it because I need that background information to talk to people. Happens in my family also. Same person I've been meeting multiple times. When I go and meet the person, I don't remember the context. So if I meet a family member in office, it's very difficult for me to map it and figure out, who's this person. So everybody around me knows that. So it works out really well. I interact with a lot of people. I teach in multiple colleges. So always I tell the students, never meet me in MG Road and tell, hello, sir. Tell me which batch, which college, which year, then I can connect. Don't just expect me to remember your name. So all my kids also know, all my students know. They always come and say, 2004, PS College, South Campus, Electronics. Then I'll just map it and say, okay. And I'll remember the name also. Immediately I'll remember the name. So that's how it's been. And I've worked around it. And I think that has really, really helped me to be where I am right now. So some of these things was accidental discovery, but made a big difference in terms of structuring my journey also during this, many years. So that's how I started, right? So education, one of the traits of being ADHD is you get to do multiple things. You focus on multiple things. And actually, it's not a jack of all. It's how you manage your times. And again, many things which ADHD offers you can be converted into a strength also. Again, I was very lucky to identify those things and use that as a capability rather than a deficiency in me, right? So I could do multiple things at the same time. But luckily, I've been able to do it very effectively. And I do 100% with whatever I'm doing. So I had a wonderful career. I still have a very, very strong career. And I'm very assertive in my career. I put in at least 10 hours in my job till date. I've never compromised on that. I leave home at 6:30 in the morning. I'm in office at 7 o'clock. 7 to 4, I rarely pick up personal calls or anything to do with NGOs or education or anything. It's purely work. 4:30 is when I start doing other things. And, I focus on my NGOs. I work with multiple startups. I'm a mentor in multiple companies. So whatever I do outside is always beyond that. And every year I still remember I declare all the outside activities to the company to get the approvals. And they keep asking me, why do you do it? I said, just to keep me active, I have to do this. And the next question usually is, does it help the company you're working for? And usually people tend to write, oh, it helps in, project management skills. It helps in communication. It helps in this and that. I say, nada, zilch. It doesn't help the company, but it helps me be stable in the company and the work I do. So I've always done something else on the side. And that's the reason why everything I do is in my LinkedIn. I have 2 LinkedIn profiles. I think I'm the only one of the few guys who have 2 LinkedIn profiles, very active. One is called Shivananda Koteshwar. That's my corporate life. And the second one is called Shivananda Koteshwar Second Life, Other Life. So there I put all my activities around NGOs, my mentoring, my coaching, whatever I do is there on the other side. Very rarely I accept friends from both sides. I keep it separate and I tell them, don't mix it up. So that way it's easier for me. So I've always been in the alternate path also with my career. So I love teaching. 2000, when I came back to India, I wanted to teach. So I applied to all these colleges, engineering colleges, and said, I want to teach. Those days, emails also was not so popular. And nobody even read those emails, right? There used to be at thecollege.com. Nobody even looked at it. But one of the professors in BMS College reached out to me and said, called me, he lives in Malleshwaram. He was retiring at that time. He called me and said, Shivoo, why do you want to teach? I said, I really think that I can give back to the society in a nice way. Society was a big word at that time. I said, I can make them learn these topics better because when I learned it, I didn't know how to apply these things. But today, I think I can make a difference. I want to teach. He said, then do one thing, don't teach engineering students, BTech students, because 80% of them are doing engineering because somebody asked them to do. They're not interested, so they don't value your time. So what I would suggest is go and teach masters, MTech students. That will be better for you. And I think that's how I started teaching. And I got this one in Ramaya College. So I've been teaching in Ramaya since then. Now also I'm in the advisory board there. and Board of Studies member there in Electronics Department. So I worked very closely with amazing people in MS Rama School of Advanced Studies, which was focusing primarily on the Masters and the PhD programs. So I started off as a teacher, but I found my sweet spot much later. That I was a good teacher, but I was a good administrator also. So my role was in between the trust and the principal. I think I played that role very well. So I used to teach, I still teach, and I started working with the children from 2001. So that's how I've been. So today I work with multiple engineering colleges and management schools. I'm in the advisory board and councils of different schools right now. So I used to work with schools. I've seen all the privileged kids, tier 1 schools, tier 1 colleges, tier 2 colleges in cities. So it has been my education has always been my journey. What happened was in 2014-15 timeframe, I bought an agricultural land in a place called Malwali, which is between Bangalore and Mysore. It's around 2 hours from here. And why Malwali? Because I thought if you need to have an agricultural land in Karnataka, you need to buy in Mandia. Only then you are considered as a farmer, right? So I said, okay, I'm going to buy Mandias. And Malwali happened to be that place. I had no other connections, but I got a good land. And again, the challenge was to balance the agriculture with the work and other things I was doing. So whenever I used to go to the farm, we used to look at kids around us and realized, there is zero exposure in these kids. Intelligent kids. I'm not saying they're not intelligent, but there is no exposure. So you ask them, what do you want to do? What do you want to become when you grow up? You would hear, I want to be a teacher. I want to be a farmer. Maximum, I want to be a police. That's it, right? So I said, okay, how can we work with these kids? How can we make them dream bigger? The only goal I had was to talk to them and tell them, what do you want to become? And I wanted to hear, I want to be an astrophysicist. I want to be a marine biologist. I want to be someone who will go to US and do this. That kind of aspirations, if you don't have, you don't work towards it, right? So the goal of that whole interaction was to make sure the kids have a bigger dream. And to do that, what do we do? Then I said, okay, these kids, nobody spoke English there. So, and I know what are the challenges we have when you don't speak English. I know 800 words in English. That's it. All my English words are not more than 6 letters, but I've managed it very well. So the question is not about how much of diction you know, how much of grammar you know. Are you able to express the thoughts you have in your mind, right? Doesn't matter whether you have an accent, whether doesn't matter whether you know the right way of saying. I never say entrepreneur, I say entrepreneur now also. People try to correct me. I say I don't care, because the point is not about the pronunciation. The point is about the spirit behind that word. As long as you understand that, I think you'll do well in life. So we started off with English classes. And I said, okay, we're going to teach you English. And of course, there was a lot of doubt that why would you do it? We had 28 kids in the first week we started. And today we have 160 plus kids. And we have every child in the village coming to our classes right now. We started with English classes. So the whole concept was between friends and family, my cousins, my wife, everybody was a part of this whole venture when we started. And why Belaku? Because there is a very, very famous NGO in Jayanagar called Belaku. BLAKU. And I met the gentleman. He's no more today. Wonderful work they do. And they have this old age home. They have an orphanage. They have multiple things they're doing. In fact, my first proceedings of my book, when I wrote The Prophets, I wrote it to Belaku at that time. I was really inspired by that. So I really liked the name. And it's a very Kannada name. Right? Belaku is a very, very close to Kannada name. And I said, okay, I want to name Belaku itself. But my name had SHIVOO. So I said, okay, let's put the O here and make it Belaku. So that's how the Belaku came. So we registered. The reason why we registered was because of the pressures we used to get from the local guy saying, why you're doing this? Where is the registrations and etc. etc. So we said, okay, let's register Belaku. And my very close friend, his name is Shrikant. We studied together again in Hassan. He's from Tiptur. He works in Infosys today. His wife, Smita Hemmige, who's a chief marketing officer in a company called as Answer. Wonderful career she has. And we both came together. We said, shall we register it together? Because she was the one who was teaching English classes those days. So me and her came together, registered the trust called Belaku at that time. And we started a journey by teaching kids English. But today, we have morphed it into not just English, but the entire life skills. And we wanted to target 8th, 9th, 10th kids. But the class was very interesting for the kids because we used to give them breakfast, lunch, a lot of goodies. We give them T-shirts, we give them anything they need for their educational requirements. We take care of it right now, right? So they used to get geometry boxes, multiple things, right? So their brothers and sisters who are in second grade, third grade were missing out on this, right? They had a FOMO. So they also started coming. So we were not structured earlier to handle so many kids. But luckily today we have wonderful volunteers. Shashi is one of them. Shilpa Vishwanath is the other person. So we have really nice volunteers. We have people coming all the way from Mysore every weekend to teach the kids. Jai Prakash, his son, who's in 12th grade right now, comes every Sunday to Manoli to teach our kids. So I think I've been blessed with good people around me who run many of our initiatives. So we started with that, and Bedaku was started because of that. But today we do multiple different programs. We have another campus in. So all these kids go to government school. So all the kids go to school. They come on the weekends, and we have a structure. We have a methodology on which we pick up a skill, mostly life skills, which is a combination of CBSE skills, 21st century skills, and all the experiences we've had, and tone it down to make sure that the kids understand. Because we need to speak in a combination of English and Kannada so that they understand the topic. They've never seen a teacher who doesn't shout at them and hit them, right? We are one of those favorite teachers because we don't do any of those things. But discipline is there. A lot of times people think hitting them, shouting at them is the only way to get disciplined in the class. I definitely don't believe in it. And we have fantastic kids there, high energy kids in Madhuli. And then the second campus we started actually above my house in Hebbal, which we moved to Smita's mom's house, which is in Dollars Colony right now. So we target kids in and around the area, worker kids or laborer kids or underprivileged kids who all go to government school or small private schools. Shilpa Vishwanath runs that classroom every Sunday. And again, we have a lot of corporates today who are tied up with us, who send their employees. A lot of students from Ramaya come to us because it's close by and engage with this kid. So again, we have a methodology, we have a syllabus, if you want to say it like that, but we have a structure through which we teach. The reason why this was important, the structure was important, was because most of the kids don't come to class every day, right? Their prerequisite knowledge is different. So they might not even have it. That's second problem. The third problem is the levels of them is different. So the fourth standard is child. Two fourth standard children might be very different. The person might not even know alphabets. So you can't actually group them into grade levels or age groups. So we need to pick up a skill which will take care of these three problems we have. And we assume that these three problems will be there. The kid will not come. So anything we teach has to end in that hour itself. You cannot expect the child to come back next class and continue that learning. So we have modularized the entire learning, picked up key topics. We do academics also, but key topics. So because when you do weekend classes, let's say 3 hours, you get like 50 classes maximum per year. You're looking at 150 hours of teaching. You cannot possibly make an impact on their academic success because we cover 20-25% of the topics. Now, the challenge is to identify what 25% of the topics we want to teach them, which will create a good foundation for them as they grow up. Right? So we have picked up topics in science, social studies, mathematics, English, which actually is that foundation level. And we have our own methodology called BedaQ methodology, through which we teach. And there's a book which is coming out very soon on BedaQ methodology, which will be releasing it to all the NGOs and all the trainers. So it'll be easy for them to follow a structure when they go and engage with NGOs. Today, if I invite you to an NGO or any NGO invites you and tells, hey, Rashmi, why don't you take this class? And they tell you, teach them hygiene, for example. You don't know where to start, right? You don't know how much to tell. So we have a methodology for that. So we have, how do we start? How do we create that? And again, I have done PhD in education. So we employ a lot of learning pedagogy, teaching pedagogy into the methodology what we have, which helps to structure the classroom very nicely. And that's what we are writing right now. So the book is going to be out this year, most probably, from Belako volunteers. So it's a collective work from all the people who have been a part of Belako to release 2 books. So one is on the 100 skills, the other one is on Belako methodology. So both will be out there. So that's been our journey in Belako right now. So there are many other programs we do in Belako. So if you're interested, we can discuss that also later.
Okay, that's a lot that you just capsuled in the last few minutes, telling us about the journey with Belako. But looking back on how it all started, how did you decide who's going to volunteer? You said you have a Belako methodology now, but how did you streamline the volunteers to speak the same language because the volunteers are coming from different cultural upbringing and different influences that they must have had as children themselves. So, do you have a methodology whereby you pick your volunteers as well?
Nope. So, very interesting question. Honestly, today, I completely depend on people. And I think people with knowledge, with a good intent, will try to do the best. So, I don't force them my methodology. I don't force them my framework. I just tell them, make sure, how do we measure success? Every time, a lot of people, when corporates, when they come to me with a check, they say, Shivoo, we want to see success. And I always tell them, you ask any kid, you ask yourself, what's the best day in your 8th grade? What's the best day in your 9th grade? Nobody is going to tell my examination was the best day. It is always going to be a visit to the zoo. It's a visit to the excursion we had. It was the annual day we had. So it's only the fun factor you remember in life. It's never the hardships you remember in life. Right? Nobody wants to remember the hardships. Everybody wants to remember the positive highs they got. So the only measurement I have is, are they happy in the classroom? Did they enjoy the class? I don't really care what you teach. I make sure they enjoy the class. In fact, the program name is also 100 skills, 100 kids, 100 smiles. I tell the only measurement for me is, of course, they learn the skill, but are they smiling end of the hour? If they think it's a punishment, they already go to the school. You can't do one more school to them on the weekend. Right? It has to be something which excites them. It has to be something which inspires them. So as long as I find someone who can make my kids smile, they are my volunteers. I tell them, you can teach them anything. You can teach them a card trick. You can teach them English. You can teach them hygiene. You can teach them safety. You can teach them computers. I don't care. There is no structure or a topic which I want you to teach. Yes, if you don't know what to teach, here is a book. Take it. Try to follow this methodology, because it's not Belako methodology. It is the teaching pedagogy methodology. Right? This is how you teach. Like, sometimes as a teacher, you don't even know that this is something you do. Like, you walk into a classroom. What do you do the first? In corporate word, we say breaking the ice. But in a classroom, you just go, and let's say you take a centipede to the class, right? And just show the centipede. Just keep it on the table. Don't talk about it. Just keep it on the table. Every child now is looking at that centipede, is wondering, what are you going to do now with that centipede? And let's say you don't even talk about it for the first 30 seconds. You have actually instilled that sense of curiosity in the child then and there itself. Then you talk about centipedes, they will easily connect, right? Now that is called as a hook. Now, sometimes if you don't know the methodology, you do it without knowing the framework. But sometimes when you know the framework, you can start structuring your thoughts around it. So I call Belako methodology more like an MBA, frameworks you have.
Yeah.
Just put your thoughts into it. Makes it easier for you to teach, because the information is out there.
Yes.
That is not the information is never the king. It's the passion at which you connect with the students and convey that information to the kids, right? So that's the most challenging work. So I have found volunteers, teachers, as young as 4th standard kids to 60-year-olds or more who've been a wonderful teacher and a volunteer for us.
This is very interesting as far as who's volunteering their time and presence to make a difference. But the ones who are your target audience, any stories from there, Shivoo, which told you that you're doing the right thing and you're going the right direction? Any stories that you can never forget?
Many, I would say, right? So when I first wanted to write a book, never thought of writing, but somebody challenged me and said, why don't you write a book? I said, okay, let me try. And the easiest way to write a book is summarize your experiences. Because I'm not a reader, I'm not good at building it up. For me, it's a good morning. That's it. I would not say the birds are chirping, the trees are, leaves are fluttering and those kind of stuff, right? So I couldn't write fiction for nuts. So I didn't even try. So what do? Why don't I write stories? So I said, okay, let me write 100 stories about my experiences, which has a life lesson. So I started writing. Every day I used to write one story. So I wrote 50 stories in 50 days or 60 days. And realized the book is big enough. So I had to release the book now. So the book name is 50 Shades of Life. So I picked up the book, wrote the 50 stories. All are real stories, my experiences around education, around kids, around my career and everything else. I released it. And I thought, now I have a book now. And when you have a fantastic friend circle, people buy. They don't have a choice, right? So I sold 1,000 copies in like 3 days. I sold the books. I was an author now. And what was interesting was my biggest audience was 11th standard and 10th standard kids and not adults. So that actually, a lot of kids actually have come back and told me nice stories because they could see themselves there. I've written about bullying. I've written about abuse to the kids because I used to run a school in 2012 to 2015 full time. I took a break in my career and started a school for PS Group, Amatra Academy in Sarjapur Road. So I was the founding director of the school. The founders, Jawar and his dad, were kind enough to give me an opportunity to, lead the school at that time. So ground up, I worked with Jawar very closely and set it up. Today is one of the best schools in that area. So we started again with a very small number of kids and we grew up. So again, all privileged kids. Most of the kids in Amatra are people whose parents are privileged, software professionals or real estate magnates whose kids study there. So you learn something different from that, right? The experiences I had with those kids are very, very different than the experiences I've had with Belaku kids for that matter. But everybody has a story. Everybody has an experience. Everybody needs help. That's one thing I've realized. Every child today out there needs help. Anything we can do to make a difference is a big, big, big service you're doing to the society, right? And because if you don't nurture these young minds, this is our future. And I feel, nature, your environment, everything is important, but more important for me is the kids. Because more you help them, more you're able to make a difference in that child, will be a big, big difference to the society moving forward. In Madhuli, for example, there was a child who was born with a physical deformity, and none of the kids were talking. And usually when she come to the class, she would be one of those kids who would sit lonely. That was one of the problems we noticed. Now, how do we solve this? Now, one is you can keep talking, you can keep informing the kids, but they don't care because you're not interacting with them on a daily basis. It's not a residential school to actually impart that kind of behavioral change. You're going there weekly once. Whatever you taught them, most probably they'll forget it in the next 3 days or 4 days. And they used to bully her, they used to pull her leg. And she was never talking, right? She always used to hide her face because the face was completely deformed. One thing what we did, experimented again, is we started making her the volunteer. We started recognizing her for every small thing she does. And it was a false recognition, I completely agree. But we said, hey, she's correct, she's good. Goodies will go to her. Suddenly, kids started sitting next to her because they realized this girl is better than them, right? So they started recognizing her academic or other skills she had, and the looks became very small for them, right? They didn't even. So today, if you come to the school, you can't make out the difference. She's with the kids, and she's grown up now, right? If you're not done that change when she was in 4th, 5th grade, today when she's in 10th grade, it would have made a big difference for her. She wouldn't even have come to the class, but she very proudly comes to the class. She doesn't even cover her face these days. And she's with the kids. Everybody talks to her and works out. And she can't even pronounce properly because she doesn't have the tooth here. But people understand her language. People understand what she's saying today. Nobody makes fun of her. I think that behavioral change we brought. We give them plates to eat in the afternoon. And they wash that plate after they eat. And one of the child came. And I saw a child who was in 4th grade give the plate to a 7th standard child and said, wash. So I called him and said, why are you asking him to wash? He said, his father works in my house. So I said, that's your house. This is a school. You both are same here. He said, no, we are zamindars and they work. He said, nothing doing. So I made him wash his plate also. So today, you don't see the difference, right? You don't see that difference in the classroom. You see kids very rich and very poor sitting next to each other, talking to each other, handling it. Caste is a big problem, right, in our state. And this is again a village, underprivileged village. All of them are below poverty line there. Very few people who made it big. So there is a big casteism here. And we do only vegetarian food. And so there are people who complain saying that, he eats meat at home. So how can I use the same plate? And I tell them, we don't serve non-vegetarian. We don't even serve egg. How does it matter? But no, they say we can't eat. So we had to break those stigmas, right, in their thoughts. Parents were not liking it. We've had all kinds of experiences in Madhwali earlier. One of the things was when we, so see, one thing is what you learn from kids, and the other thing is what you teach parents also, right? So the first class, 28 kids came, second class, 80 kids came, third class, 0 kids came. And I was wondering what happened. I went to the village. My farm is like 2 kilometers away from the village. So I went to the village, and all the parents are sitting in one place. And they said, we're not going to send the kids. I said, why? He said, to what's the guarantee that you're doing this? You might be getting a lot of grants from the government, and you're just showing it off to make money. One accusation. Second one, somebody said you're doing it because one day you might steal the kidneys of our kids. You might abduct them. You're not from this place. So what is that that you came to Malvali and doing it? The third one is you might be wanting to get into politics. So you're trying to build up stories. I had to literally talk to the parents, convince them that I'm not looking at any of these options, but we still want to do it. Today, everybody trusts us. Everybody knows our intention is right. They send their kids, right? So it was a lot of education for the parents also, trying to make them feel that we are doing it for no returns. And they don't understand the concept. They say, why would you do it? Even if you had 1 rupee extra, you would give it to your family, you would give it to your kid, you would blow it up on yourself. But why would you give it to somebody else? That's something which nobody understands. And it's not something which you learn from outside. It has to happen from within, right? A lot of my friends, they are multimillionaires. They earn left, right, and center from the right hand. They don't have an iota of inclination to donate on the left hand, right? And I keep wondering, what do you do with that money? What will you eventually do with the wealth you've created? There's no answer to it. I'm not saying that is what you should do, but I'm just thinking, what is that you have to do in everything we do in our society, which makes them inspired to actually do something else for somebody else, right? How do you bring that thought? I still have not cracked it. Right? And I would never ask my friends and family to support my Bedaku. I never ever have gone. If you see my Bedaku photos, you would never see a child who's crying. You would never see a bad state of house. It will always be smiling photos. I always tell, I don't like to go and beg with people saying that these kids don't have it. I always say, with little they have, look at the smile they have, and little more you can do and make them smile better. That's their motivation. And every time I tell people, if you're not smiling in my events, don't do it. It's not worth it for the kids, for the parents, for the community, right? So that I'm still not able to crack it. I will crack it one day. But right now, again, many of my friends are a part of Bedaku. Money has never been a problem. It's been, we always do every project in Bedaku with my money and Smita's money. But we have always raised money. Friends and family always have donated, given their time, money, and support to make it happen. So this is from the Bedaku side. When you come back to the privileged school side, when you look at it, I have children in 11th grade who have attempted suicide 7 times.
Yeah.
And I talked to her. I told the parents, I'm not a counselor, but I'm good with kids. So I told the parents, if you don't mind, and she's going to therapy. She's taking classes and everything. Sessions and everything. So I told the parents, if you don't mind, I want to talk to the child. They said, please go ahead. So I took the child out, and I know how to open up a kid. So the child started talking to me and said, sir, I said, what's your problem? I want to understand. I am not saying I'm going to help you, but I just want to understand, why are you doing this? Because very intelligent child, very, very intelligent child. Sorted. Like you can talk to her about anything. He's sorted. Right? Then she started interacting with me. I never talked about her problems. We were talking about current affairs. We were talking about the war in Russia. We were talking about completely different topics. And she knew much more than me. So I used to ask her, what do you think about this? What do you think about this? She used to talk to me. And every time she found a chance to come and meet me and spend that, she used to bunk classes and come and meet me and talk to me, 11th standard child. So when she went to, so she was fine. So I asked her, why do you talk to me so much? You're in 11th, right? She said, sir, that is my problem. I don't find people with whom I can interact with. My friends are worried about boyfriends, chatting, putting photos, makeups. I don't like it. I want to have an intellectual discussions. I said, why don't you have it with your parents? She says, no, they treat me like a child. And I want to debate. And I told the parents, the point she makes is valid. She is knowledgeable. When she says somebody is wrong, some country is wrong, or some country is right, she has data. So instead of trying to box her in, why don't you talk to her? So I told her, I promise you one thing, I'll give you good people who can debate with you. And every time she finds someone who makes her feel that she might be wrong or intellectually challenges her, she loves that conversation. And suddenly things change around her. So sometimes it's that small difference we make in that child, which can take the child a long way. And again, that's a very privileged kid, lives in one of those villas. Parents have done everything right for the child. They were at loss of words to understand why is she doing it, right? And so it's very, very interesting to see what is that they're going through, right? And every small changes and differences you make in this kid is going to brighten the future. Another child, very perfect kid. Again, parents, software VPs and above, doing very well, travels a lot. She has traveled a lot. And she attempted only once. She attempted, but she didn't do it. So I called her. I said, what happened? She said, small thing, very small thing. Something triggered her. And she said, she walked into the 7th floor. She put her leg to jump. And she said, what happened then? She said, I could see my mom's face. And I couldn't keep my leg on my mom's face. So I took my step back, came down, hugged my mom. That's about it. So I tell parents, see, sometimes you don't know what stops them also. It might be talking. It might be being the support. Sometimes, however good parent you are, you might not be that person for your child. You might not be the go-to person for your child. It might be your family member. It can be your friend. It can be somebody totally different, or it can be a professional help. So it's very important to build that ecosystem around the child. Otherwise, it's very difficult for the child to open up. Again, I'm not saying I'm an expert in this. I've cracked it. I'm the best parent for my kids. My kids also have challenges. I might not be the right mentor for them. I might not be the right teacher for them because they might think I'm biased. I'm not, but they might think I'm biased when I interact with them. So it's very important that the problem statements we have in our villages with the kids, the problem statement we have with the urban kids, the problem statement we have with the privileged kids are very, very different. So I don't think one size fits all. It's very important as a parent, as a teacher, to keep spending time with that cohort you have, the kids you have, and understand their needs and try to customize a solution for their needs. What this batch is very different than the next batch. So what worked this batch will not work next batch. So I think these are some of the stories I've seen with these kids. The last one, quickly I will say is, I had a talk in Avi College a couple of years back. And, it was one of those talks to the students to encourage them to get into entrepreneurship and other things. I come back, I get a call from a girl and she says, sir, I want to meet you. I said, come home. It's easier for me instead of me coming there. She, after like an hour and a half, she comes, 5'2" girl, thin girl, coming in a two-wheeler. And I said, where did you come from? She said, Kengeri. And I live in Hebban. I said, come on, you could have told me, we would have met somewhere in between. She said, no, sir, it's my work. I wanted to meet you. And I have this idea I want to do. And she explained, she talked about it. I said, all ideas are good. I asked her, do you have the grit? Will you take it to completion? She said, yes. I said, does your parents support you? Because if your parents don't support you, they want to get you married, I will talk to your parents because I see a potential in you. I think, she said, no, my dad supports me. My dad has told me very clearly that I can keep doing it as long as I want. And, I can focus on it. And she's a chemical engineer. She's not even a computer science or electronics engineer. And the idea she had needed electronics background. So she had a partner. I looked at him. I told he will not be with you for long. So be prepared to run this journey alone and be yourself. Today, couple of years backstory. Today, she is more than 250 crore worth company. Her name is Niveda. I always keep telling. Wonderful student of mine, wonderful person. TrashCon is the name of the company. She manages most of the waste which Bangalore and we people produce. She does the recycling part of it. She manages the BBMP trash facilities. I think she also manages the Kempegowda airport, the trash recycling. One of the very good companies called TrashCon. People who are listening should check it out, should meet her, should talk to her, understand her journey. Because again, wonderful person, right? And if you hear her speak today, you get inspired with what you do. And a small girl like that can inspire thousands of people. And I think all of us have an opportunity today. It is not like the growing up years of mine where we didn't have the exposure. But today, the exposure is there, opportunities are there. It's just that you need to put in your hard work, make it happen. So I think, again, different stories from different background, but I just thought I'll just share it with you.
Yeah, that's so true. But you brought in a very important concept and something that was hidden from drawing room conversations or dining table conversations, which is mental health, when you were sharing those stories. But the one thing that brought it out in the open was the pandemic. Everyone understood that loneliness is the next epidemic, and many people already see its existence. But the pandemic was when people recognized, put their finger on it, and identified it as a huge issue. All of us had our own challenges during the pandemic and took away a lot of lessons from the pandemic. What were yours, Shivu? Because yours was an interaction with children face to face, and pandemic meant all schools closed, everything went online. So, did you continue your Belaku schools online as well?
If it was not a podcast, I wouldn't have done this. Okay, by the way, I don't like Zoom and I have nothing to do with the company. I don't do online classes. I've never done it. Now also, I don't mind traveling 1 hour, 2 hours. Even I don't mind going to Bombay and teaching a class than doing an online class. So I don't do online classes at all these days. Pandemic made it stronger. Said this is the right thing to do for me. Yes, I understand why we do online because reach is much bigger. You cannot get experts across the world to come do a physical event all the time. Fair enough. But the impact it has when you do a live sessions, even if it's for 100 people, makes a bigger difference than you doing it for 10,000 people across the Zoom link or WebEx or any of those Teams or any of those things. So I personally prefer online interaction with the kids because it's not just the knowledge, it's the way you connect with the person. So the medium is very, very important for me. So during COVID, you won't believe Hangrapura was one of the villages which ran classes, though the government has said strictly no classes. The government school teachers took the risk going against the directives from the authorities to do classes around clusters. So they took 10 kids, one teacher, and their interaction is only with 10 kids. They had a phone on which they used to, do a WhatsApp video to teach, and the teachers did it. They didn't get 1 rupee extra from anyone. And if they're caught doing that, they can be suspended by the education department. But still the teachers did it. So the commitment the government teachers had, fantastic. Now, were they ignorant? No. Why? Because they cordoned off the village. Nobody from outside could enter Hangrapura village, Malvalli Taluk at that time. So without knowing the epidemic or pandemic, right, they actually did the right thing because that's what villagers did earlier. Right? If you think about any of the pandemic we've had, the only way to control was isolation. And the moment the second wave hit the village, hit India, when they started seeing deaths, they said nobody from outside can enter. I might be the only person who was allowed inside the village at that time. But I was also very careful because I was interacting with people in Bangalore. I didn't want to be the first person to, get in the second wave of pandemic in the village. We were lucky. We didn't lose anybody in the village at that time because second wave was very bad for us, right? So we didn't lose anybody. We didn't have a big hit in the second wave there. But the schools ran, right? So the help they needed was different. The help they needed was, can you please get us smartphones? Because we wanted to do it. So we did a drive at that time, and we actually created clusters and we gave smartphones for the kids so that they can continue with their education. And we said the lower grades, don't worry, nothing is going to happen. 6 months of not going to class is not going to make or break your life when you're in sixth grade or fifth grade, right? So, but use your time effectively. Don't waste your time watching TV, doing something. Why don't you read something? Here are books. So we gave them a lot of books, not just academic books, story books, multiple different things, crafts, arts. So whatever we had, we passed it on over there, and we interacted with them. But towards in the 9th and 10th, we did some online classes there. And again, online classes, not as in, because they didn't have the infrastructure. Yeah. So it was more on the phone, right? Just do a video call to 10 people, keep the phone in somebody's house, and then continue with the classes. So we worked like that in our classes. It worked very well. For the Bangalore classes, we suspended the classes because Bangalore was in a bad state at that time. Yeah. And again, we don't know their background. We didn't know where they're coming from and everything else. So we just wanted to make sure that the household doesn't catch the pandemic at that time. So we managed it. So hygiene became one of our most, the sought after class. And a lot of volunteers did a wonderful job of putting together a complete hygiene classes. We were, all the kids in our class had enough supply of masks for the next 1 year. Every time we went, we made sure that everybody used the mask. They don't reuse the same mask over and over again. So we gave them enough masks. We give them cloth masks. We had, good filter masks and other things, which we donated to the kids. And I think we controlled it really well, the epidemic part of it. The classes also at that time was not really more on the skills, but more on making sure that they keep learning and they don't lose track of learning, writing, those kind of stuff. So we did multiple drives around that and keep them engaged until the third wave. So I think they were fine.
Okay.
And it's a black swan theory, right? Yes. So everybody says that online education is the best, and etc. I think what happened was online education was happening anyway. It is nothing to do with the pandemic. Okay. But the rate at which it happened became faster. So we are just scratching the surface on online education. Yes, there are companies which has failed. There are companies which is failing, but doesn't mean it's going anywhere. The only way to reach to the masses, to reach to the remotest part of India is online classes. The formats will change. The way we are engaging will change. The way we teach will change. The learning aids will change. There might be a physical kit which might have to be given or sent home and then do a hybrid or blended classroom. So I think things is going to change. We're just at the surface level of where education can take us.
Yeah. And every time there's a challenge in life, that's where we go deeper to understand how to make the most of it. And every challenge leaves us that much more richer. Correct. Life is one of those universities which throws a lot of challenges at us, sometimes prepares us beforehand, sometimes makes us face it on just the moment you face it. So 3 life lessons that you would like to leave us with?
The first one is your future is in your hands. Nobody can define it. Nobody can box anyone and say, this is what you will become. This is what will happen to you. I think it's completely in our hands. Right? I really like that story. People, you might have heard it as Tenali Rama story or Akbar Birbal story or even management guru stories, but the story is what it is. Right? A clever student goes and asks his teacher, I have a sparrow in my hand. What do you think? Is it alive or dead? And he tries to challenge the guru right here and basically wants the guru to go wrong here. And the answer guru says is, it's in your hands. And I think future is like that. Right? So nobody can take that from you. Nobody I don't believe in destiny. I don't believe that you're born to do something. I think any one of us can change. Any one of us can learn. Any one of us can do what we want to do. So future is completely in our hands. As long as we realize it, I think we'll have a better journey. So that's the first one. The second one is, I always tell, everything around you, which is nature, for example, has answers for every problem we have. So the area of subject, if anybody is interested, is called biomimicry. Bio is life, nature. Mimicry is repeating, right? What the nature teaches you. Every design you can think of, which you see out there, is inspired by nature. Every problem which you are trying to solve today, nature has already solved it. So I think look around you to solve the problems which you might have. And the problems you have is very, very small compared to the problems the nature has, right? Traffic problem. We keep hearing about traffic problem. There are multiple research which is going on right now to understand the traffic pattern of a bee. How does the bee manage the traffic? How do ants manage the termite hill traffic, right? We have again scratched the surface. We don't even know how they communicate. They don't even speak with each other. But how do they communicate? How do they make sure if you have seen a trail of ants going, you draw the line in between, they don't cross it.
Yeah.
Now, how does it communicate to the other end? Because the next line doesn't come on that lane now. It comes on a different lane. And these are ants who have never been in that path. So how do they even communicate? How do they make sure they reach the point F to point B in the same time or a specified time without worrying about the traffic out there, right? You kill two ants, they still manage around it. How do they do all these things? I think there is enough to learn from nature. And I think all of us, any problem we have, it doesn't matter what level of complexity it is, I think nature has a solution for it. So it's very, very important for all of us to look around us and see what nature offers, how nature has solved the problem, and then take it forward from there. The last one, which is the most important thing, is I was one of those students who thought I will never study after my engineering. And I was happy with my engineering degree. When I went to US, they called me undergrad. It really hurt me because I thought I was a graduate. And suddenly you go to US and you realize that your BTech is an undergraduate program. So I was very clear that I want to be a graduate. So I actually did my master's only for that, nothing else. And the benefit it had for me, the things I learned is something which I treasure till date. And after that, I've never stopped learning. I've done MBA, I've done PG course in IIM. I recently finished last month. I think I finished a course in ISB. I've done multiple certification programs across the top universities in the world. I did my PhD. I did IP law in National Law School. I've never stopped studying. And people keep asking me, why the hell do you study at this age? And I say, education definitely prepares you for certainty, but learning prepares you for surprises. And when the pandemic happened, when the things changed around us, I didn't have to worry about it. I had the right skills to take up the next challenge. I am in semiconductor world. I am deep dive in technical also, but at the same time, I've spent enough time in the leadership roles. I have enough time observing and mentoring people. I am in the cusp of changing my jobs right now. Actually, I'm already out of Synopsys. I'll be joining a new company. I've already joined the new company, but the announcement is happening first week of August. And it's a very, very interesting company and so much to learn. This is something which I've never done. This area is something which I've never done. So I've taken a personal mentor right now, a professor, every day, 9 to 10, teaches me the topics which I need to know. And so I think as long as you are a lifelong student and a lifelong learner, life will offer you multiple opportunities. So that's my third life lesson, that be a lifelong learner. Never think that you know it all. Try to reach out to experts who can teach you something more than what you knew yesterday. Right? And you can apply it to your skill, to your job also. You can apply it to your life also. So I think it's very, very important to know that there is so much to learn out there. And there are people who are ready to teach you. So the question is, are you interested? Do you have the time, or can you make the time to do these things? Will make a big, big impact in your life and career. A lot of times people ask me, how do you think your journey has been? Do you consider it successful? I said, definitely yes. And success is not just because of my abilities, my hardships, my learning also. Sometimes the environment around you, right? You can do the same thing what I did in, sorry to take the name, but let's say in North Korea. You might not be as successful as what you are in India, right? So environment around us, the people around us is very, very helpful, right? I mean, we are in the best times. If you can't be successful today, you will never be successful in life, ever. You look at any go back 100 years, 200, 300 years back in India, we are in the best times. So very, very important for people to know that. Today's kids are better than where we were. We were better than where our parents were. So I think the opportunity is out there. As long as you're a lifelong learner, I think we can capitalize on this.
That is so true and so beautifully put. I don't think I can add anything more other than the fact and wish you and your entire team all the very best in what you're doing, because
Thank you very much.
people talk, but those who act are lesser in number. And if everyone gets into action mode, our society will be a far more beautiful place than it is today. Thank you.
And I want to tell people, right, it is not giving back. So don't ever think that you're doing a service.
Yeah.
Social service is a very wrong word. It is not a service. It's a need. You have to do it. There's no, because you've been successful because of society around you. So you can't take out that society out of it and say, I'll do it if I have time. I'll do it if I have more money. No, it has to be a part of your living, and giving back is a need right now and should be a part of our lives. As long as our kids understand that, I think we will have definitely a very, very good future in moving forward.
Well said. And may your tribe increase, Shivoo. God bless you and continue to inspire everyone you're meeting in your life. Thank you so much. Honored to have had you on You and I with Rashmi Shetty.
Thank you, Rashmi.
With that, we complete this episode of You and I with Rashmi Shetty. Do let us know if you know inspirational people whose story needs to be heard. You can write in at rashmi.thethirdeye@gmail.com. That is rashmi.thethirde@gmail.com.